Welcome to week 4 of the Blue Collar Football League season. And fortunately, we had nice weather this week for the matchup between the Cin-City Buccaneers and the Southern Ohio Blaze. The two teams met in week 1, and the Bucs led 14-0 just before halftime when bad weather rolled in and the game was called, resulting in a no contest. The two divisional rivals have remained undefeated since then, but are coming off close calls. The Bucs beat out the Tornadoes 7-2 last week, while the Blaze held off the Port City Spartans 22-20. The defending champion Buccaneers turned to the ground game to start things out. On the first play from scrimmage, Greg Johnson worked his way forward for 8 yards. And a few plays later is Brandon Neely bullying his way forward for 14 yards down to the Blaze 24-yard line. But a holding call halted the Bucs' momentum, and on 4th and 16, Edward Hampton brought down Antonio Davis for a sack to end the Buccaneers' drive. The Bucs were focused on stopping reigning MVP Devontae Johnson on the first play, but after taking a pitch, he instead fired a pass to a wide-open Chris Courtney, who scored the easy 54-yard touchdown, giving the Blaze a 6-0 lead. The Buccaneers faced a 3rd and 5 on their next drive, but Davis was able to find C.J. Talley for 11 yards for the first down. A pass interference penalty further moved the Bucs down into the red zone, but on 2nd and 2, Antoine Hill stripped the ball away from Greg Johnson and recovered the fumble, giving possession back to the Blaze. The Blaze offense quickly went back to work. Johnson took a handoff, burst through the left side for 17 yards out to the 30. Then on the next play, Maurice Lovett found Kendall Watson. He picked up 14 yards, and the Bucs were forced to take an early timeout. Lovett then scrambled before eventually finding Tyreek Brooks for a 13-yard gain into Cin-City territory. But on the final play of the first quarter, Lovett rolled out again, but this time as former Blaze defensive back Mike Bell with the interception against his old team, and the Buccaneers had stopped the threat. The Buccaneers went back to the ground with Greg Johnson picking up 10 yards on the first play of the second quarter, and then working his way ahead for another 9 yards on the next play. The Buccaneers worked their way down to the 34, but on 2nd down, Hampton brought down Davis again, and the Buccaneers were forced to punt. When Cin-City got the ball back again, Hampton was there for his 3rd sack of the first half, taking down Davis once again. On the next play, Davis is able to get his pass off, but Malik Brown is there for an interception, and he's able to celebrate on the Blaze sideline. On the next play, Lovett goes around the end. He keeps it himself. He slips through a tackle and picks up 19 yards out to the 44. Then on 3rd and 11, Lovett fired a pass. Kendall Watson toes the sideline, keeps his feet in for 22 yards and a first down. That drive ended on downs, but the Blaze did get the ball back for one last possession just before halftime. With 13 seconds remaining, Lovett threw up a deep pass, and Courtney was there to pull it down, but he was brought down at the 3-yard line, and time ran out in the half before the Blaze could run another play. We went into halftime with Southern Ohio ahead 6-0. Southern Ohio opened the second half with 3 runs by Johnson, but facing a 3rd and 7, Lovett instead threw a screen pass to Johnson, who weaved his way ahead 24 yards down to the Bucs' 28-yard line. 2 plays later, Lovett scrambled out to the right before finding Darius Chapman for a 21-yard gain down to the 7. And then it was back to Johnson. He worked his way around the left side and leapt into the end zone for the touchdown that put Southern Ohio ahead 12-0. And that celebration looks kind of familiar. After stopping the Bucs on downs, the Blaze faced a 3rd and 13 when Lovett fired a strike to Brooks. He worked his way ahead for 26 yards down to the 37. Then it was 3rd and 9 when Lovett this time turned to Kenyon Thomas along the sideline. He got 14 yards. And on the next play, it was back to Johnson. He burst his way forward, slipped through one tackle, and reached into the end zone. Good for a 22-yard touchdown that had Southern Ohio ahead, 18-0. C.J. Talley went at quarterback for the Bucs, and he tried to rally them back, picking up 10 yards on this play with a penalty at the end, adding 15 more, putting Cin-City in the red zone at the end of the third quarter. The Bucs' drive didn't go much further, however, and they elected to try a 37-yard field goal to get some points on the board. But the ball didn't make it back to holder Mike Bell cleanly, and he was swallowed up by the Blaze defense at the 32-yard line. It looked like Cin-City would get the ball back, however Johnson, who does punt for the Blaze, elected to take off this time instead, and he picked up 14 yards, allowing Southern Ohio to run some more time off the clock. Cin-City did eventually get the ball back, but the Blaze kept up their pressure. First, it was James Brown corralling Talley for this sack. And on the final drive of the game, it was Mike Harris and Elijah Goins combining for yet another sack for the Blaze defense. And with that, time ran out, and the Blaze were able to celebrate a big win over the defending BCFL champion Buccaneers. It was a commanding performance for the Blaze as they took control of the Western Conference's Blue Division by outgaining the Buccaneers 370 yards to 98. 6 sacks by the Blaze defense proved key to the effort. Devontae Johnson had a hand in all 3 Southern Ohio touchdowns. He threw the 54-yard touchdown pass to start the scoring and then ran 12 times for 95 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. He also had a 24-yard reception in the game. Lovett was 11 for 23 passing for 194 yards. Chris Courtney had 3 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. Kendall Watson had 4 receptions for 38 yards. Edward Hampton led the defense with 4 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks. For Cin-City, Greg Johnson had 6 carries for 30 yards. Talley did a little bit of everything with 21 rushing yards, 16 passing yards, and 11 receiving yards. And Marcus Commodore was the leading receiver with 3 catches for 23 yards. Daniel Ferguson led the defense with 7 tackles, while Mike Bell had 4 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and an interception against his former team, and Joshua Dobbins and Antoine Brown both recorded a sack. A pair of one-loss teams squared off in Indiana, with the Cincinnati Dukes traveling to face the Indiana Tornadoes. On the opening drive of the game, the Tornadoes were fighting to keep the play alive, but Nathan Irwin Jackson forced a fumble, and Lamar Taborn was there to pick it up and run in 14 yards to give the Dukes an early 8-0 lead. The Tornadoes' next drive also ended on a turnover, an interception by Leandre Pope, and they would not see the ball again for quite a while. The Dukes went on an 18-play, 88-yard drive that included 3 third-down conversions and 1 fourth-down conversion, before Kamani Murray finally capped the drive with a 20-yard touchdown pass to Tay White, putting the Dukes ahead 14-0. And then the Dukes recovered the kickoff that followed, enabling to run another 7 more plays before Indiana finally got the ball back. And just before halftime, Murray connected with Taborn on offense for a 19-yard touchdown, putting Cincinnati ahead 20-0 at the break. The Dukes added 1 more touchdown, a 6-yard pass from Murray to White in the fourth quarter, that made the final score Dukes 26, Tornadoes nothing. Also in Indiana, the Cutters and the Kentucky Cardinals faced off in a rematch of a Week 1 game that the Cutters won 22-6. On the first series of the game, Michael Thomas for the Cardinals fired a 36-yard pass that got Kentucky to the Indiana 27. And 2 plays later, it was Thomas firing this 20-yard touchdown pass, and just like in the first meeting, Kentucky was ahead 6-0. This time the Cardinals added a 92-yard pass and a pick 6 to lead 18-7 at halftime, and when Nick Elder fired this 7-yard touchdown in the third quarter, Kentucky was ahead 24-7. Kenny Martin entered the game at quarterback for the Cutters, and he helped them answer, finding Isaiah Moore for this pass. He bounced off a defender and raced into the end zone for a 39-yard touchdown. It was still 24-14 in the fourth quarter, however, when Martin went deep and found Osborne Parker for 39 yards in the Cardinals' territory. That led to another touchdown to Moore, this 19-yard strike that pulled the Cutters to within 24-20 with 1:46 remaining. The Cardinals recovered the kick that followed, but Indiana was able to get the ball back for one final play. Martin's desperation pass will fall incomplete here. However, Indiana will still end up getting the win by forfeit as the Cardinals used an ineligible player. And in Portsmouth, the Port City Spartans were looking to bounce back after 2 straight losses, hosting the Capital City Mustangs. Port City jumped on top on their opening possession with a 21-yard touchdown pass from Noah Corbett to Nyshawn McCall. Then, on Capital City's second play from scrimmage, the Spartans recovered a fumble and brought it back for a touchdown, taking a 14-0 lead. And before the first quarter was out, Corbett found his running back for a short pass. He took it in 10 yards for a touchdown, and the Spartans were ahead 22-0. In the second quarter, Michael Chandler took a handoff. He worked ahead 16 yards for another Spartans touchdown, and they were up 28-0. And that is how the game ended, with the Spartans ending their 2-game losing streak with a 28-0 win against the Mustangs. Looking at all the scores once again, it was a week of shutouts in the BCFL, with the Blaze shutting out the Buccaneers 18-0. The Dukes recorded their second straight shutout, this time with a 26-0 win against the Tornadoes, and the Mustangs fell by the score of 28-0 for the second week in a row, this time to the Spartans. The Cutters ended up with the win against the Cardinals by forfeit, and the Warriors also picked up a win this week, while the Gladiators were off. What that means for the standings is this. There are now 2 undefeated teams left in the league, the Gladiators at 3-0 and the Blaze at 2-0. The Gladiators, who are off, maintain their lead in the Red Division of the Eastern Conference over the Warriors, who are now 2-2, while the Mustangs sit at 1-3. The Dukes remain atop the Blue Division at 3-1, while the Spartans improve to 2-2, and the Huskies are 0-4. The Cutters lead the Red Division at 2-1 with 2 wins against the Cardinals. The Tornadoes are 1-2, while the Cardinals are 1-3. And in the Blue Division, the Blaze are now 2-0 and in first place, while the Buccaneers are 2-1. Looking ahead to this week's games, there are some key divisions in the Eastern Conference. The Dukes will host the Spartans, already holding a 1-game lead and a win against Port City. Meanwhile, in the Red Division, the Gladiators will host the Warriors, also having beaten them once this season. The Buccaneers will look to bounce back as they travel to face the Cutters, and the Tornadoes and Cardinals will meet in a Western Conference Red Division showdown. The Blaze will pick up a win against the Huskies, and the Mustangs are off this week. And finally, this week's owners poll, where quite a bit did change, although the Gladiators are still at the top at number 1. The Dukes moved up to second, while the Buccaneers, with their loss, dropped to third, 1 spot ahead of the Blaze, who are 4th. The Spartans moved back up 2 spots from 7 to 5, while the Cutters slipped a spot from 5 to 6. The Tornadoes dropped 3 spots, going from 4 to 7. The Cardinals moved up a spot from 9 to 8, while the Warriors dropped down to 9. The Mustangs are still number 10, and the Huskies at 11.